everyone, Karen the Warp Spinster here. Thank you for spending some time with me and Emily today. Previously on It Makes a Village, we were working on something like this, where we inserted things, made curves, just some funky things for some houses for a village. And I do want to pursue that, but today I want to talk about how I might put those together. And we have lots of choices, and based on the comments, seems like many of you are wondering how we're going to put this together. For this session, I want to simplify it back a little bit, just so we can sort of build from the basics. And early on last week, I had put together some just 2.5-inch squares, which is where we started all of this, and then used some of my triangles left over from fold over situations and just started putting some triangular roofs on. Roofs or depending on where you live, I guess. And I actually just liked the looks of that. Let me find another one here somewhere. Ooh, that's a half square triangle. Awesome. I'm gonna have to raid my triangles some more and have something like that going on in different levels, of course, probably different streets. Really, I'm going to have to cut some to get some. I seem to have a preponderance of green and blue, which comes from my crane dance quilt. Well, those we don't want right next to each other, do we? So something like that. Now, along with when I went down to look for some more solid squares, I found some other pieces in my scrap pile, which I think would be nice additions to the neighborhood. They aren't 2.5-inch squares, but they aren't pieced. There aren't any funky shapes. These are all rectangles. And so we could have some high rises in the neighborhood, some 2-story houses, maybe even 3-story. We could have a little tiny house. This is a very tiny house, but we could have a little tiny house in here. About the size of the chimney for some of these houses, isn't it? And we have to give them little roofs. Do have some white HSTs here, but I think that's going to be, yes, I'm definitely going to have to do some triangles for roofs, but you're getting the idea of what we're doing. And the reason I'm simplifying it is, number one, I like how it looks, but also because, oh, let's have a low-rise community building or something here, just a flat building. What was I talking about? Oh yes, to simplify it, because the first construction is to just piece together the houses and then applique on the roofs. So I want to look at putting these together. I kind of want this to be on a hill. I know that some of that's going off frame, sorry, but limited range on my camera holder here. And I could get some more colors going on here with the roofs, of course. I will get there. Oh, we should put some on stilts. Oh, you could have so much fun with these. I'm already having fun and haven't even really got started on this particular one anyway. Now, What else have we got here? Oh, this snuck in, and you know there's one in every neighborhood. I'm not against colorful houses. Go with what you love. But you know there's always one that is quite different from the rest. Actually, we have one in the neighborhood. A friend of mine used to live next door to a house that had a really interesting color scheme, and she just hated it. And she'd say, oh, he's gonna paint his house, he's gonna paint his house, and he'd paint it the same color, odd combinations of colors, and she moved, although not for that reason, I don't think. And then there's a goth house, of course. I almost think he needs to have something different and funky on the roof. In the community building or the mall or whatever, always seems to have a flat roof, which where I live in the Midwest of the US, bad idea. All right, our mall did that, and there's always standing water, and it leaked like a sieve. And combination of bad design and bad construction, I guess. Do we want that to be different, or do we want to have second story that's the same? Don't know. Well, it could be like a little belfry, couldn't it? All right, and then the town clock is in the middle there. This needs to go more uphill, which I know is taking it more out of frame. And this is not so much on a slope. You could have a beachside one with houses on stilts. Have a boatload of fun with this. All right, now we need to tackle how we're going to put this together. I'll worry about multicolored roofs after we ponder all of this. That may even be next week's. And this all relates to what we did last time with all of these piece things. It's going to be basically the same, but I did like this, frankly, just these plain ones too, so thought I would do this one first. So this will make it easier for us to picture how we want to piece it. So I want to make sure these are arranged as I want. We can't change it, but it gives me some idea of how much I need, and this is just going to be the basic. Grab a ruler here to show you. So say this is going to be our baseline here, and then there's one off screen up here too. Let me slide this down, that will help. So then I'll have another top line up here. And in fact, let's just make the edge of that paper. Just for you, I'm using my high quality Red River paper, my 60-pound art paper, just for you. So then I need pieces that I can piece, say, onto here. That will be this length, that width, this length, that width, etc., going across, and then the same at the top, and then those will just piece together. Then I can go ahead and put the roofs on as I like. Roofs, 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 roofs. I grew up living under roofs, and now I live under a roof. All right, there we go. Now, I am not going to measure these. I could, if that's what you want to do. I'll measure the width and cut a strip from my stash of white strips that will fit at least this length combined, and then I can stitch those, and I will put them together probably a little longer than they need to be, and then I'll trim them down so that I've got a straight line going across here. Now, my other option for this would be to piece these up to that top part, and actually a little higher, because I want this to have a roof too. So it would need to be pieced above this so that I have room for the roof. So these are actually going to end up, the ones on this side of the hill, at the bottom of the hill, are going to have to be longer in order to accommodate that. I can always piece a strip at the top, of course. Always ways around things, aren't there? All right, so I would piece these, and then I could piece a curve down here. I'm not, I'll take a look at that, but I kind of like just the simplicity of it being just the squares. So here's, see, I could simulate a curve here, kind of. And I don't know, to me that looks more urban. And I'm looking more for a small town village kind of thing. So I don't think I'll do the curve on this. Now on this funky one, I might well do that. Isn't that colorful and fun? I need some gold down here. I don't have, other than this sort of gold and orange, I need some gold in here. I may have to go get some gold. I'll find some somewhere. I found some. It's good to have a stash, isn't it? So I have a gold, I found some sea foam, and then I also ran across these peachy colored roofs. Now it's starting to look like Miami to me. We need a flamingo on a lawn somewhere. You could just, this is going to be so much fun. All right, so instead of some, well, I don't know. Maybe I don't have a place for gold. Sure I do. I have so much orange here. What if we replace that? But then this is kind of close. Let's put the goth house down here. This is the more somber end of the neighborhood, apparently. And I want this going uphill. So that's coming down there. It looks strange without roofs, but the roofs will definitely add something to it. I'm muttering to myself, I know. So let's start off with, start over at this end. In fact, I might start with this teal here, because then that will help me to know. This is the limiting factor at the top. So I'm going to, Emily's chatting with me again this week. I'm going to add some strips on this one first, and just to get a rough idea, because my eye to hand coordination is not great. So that's like a couple of inches. So, and that is 2 inches wide. So I'm going to cut a strip that's 2 inches wide, or find a strip that's 2 inches wide, and cut a goodly length if I have it. And so on the top and bottom of this. And of course, it doesn't have to be exactly 2 inches wide. It has to be at least 2 inches wide, and then I can trim it on the sides as well. Here's the piece I have done, which has plenty of length. I didn't need that length, but I'm just going to go with it because it's what I've got. And I just used a scrap strip, as you can see, that wasn't cut especially straight. And now I can straighten up with the sides. And here we have the plenty long strips. Plenty long. Do I remember where I had this precisely? No, not at all. Oh, it was right toward at the top there, wasn't it? Now, I'm going to do another one, say this one over here, and then I could put these two together. But what I think I will do instead is to do all of these strip sections, and then I can shift them as I want to. I may rearrange them and maybe place a dry fit a couple of roofs to see how it's going to look as it's going up the hill, and then I will sew them together, and then I will trim them on those sides. So you know how to do this. I will just off camera be putting those strips together. I will note, however, while I think of it, I am pressing toward the dark on this. I don't have to match up any seams along here because they're staggered. So to avoid having the shadow through on the white fabric, I'm pressing everything toward the houses, which are darker in all cases. And here are the strip sets. I did swap out a couple of these so that, I think it was these two, so these wouldn't be too close together. Just wanted to distribute the colors a little better. And then I decided this guy, who's at the top of the hill actually, wanted a lookout kind of tower because he loves nature and he wants to look out, or it's rear window and he wants to spy on all his neighbors. But he has an added little rooftop lookout. And this house is going to be a very narrow house. I realized as I was sewing it that it's going to lose a 1/4 inch on each side. I may skimp just a little bit on the seams on that, so it isn't quite so narrow, but it will be a micro house, a micro tiny home. And I don't know, he pulls it behind a bicycle or something, I don't know. And this all looks pretty but we have not got the roofs on yet. At the moment, I'm just trying to decide how I want these staggered going up the hill. And this one, of course, because it's towed behind a tiny home, can sit anywhere on the lot, and it's standing up. It's on wheels, I guess, so it can be towed. All right, so the limiting factor, you can't see, is up here at the top and down here. So I've got plenty of extra. Of course, if you prefer to measure and get those measurements precise so there's a bit less waste, I'm going to have some things for my, what do I call it? Crumb tin. I'm tired already and it's only 11 o'clock. Now I will sew these strips together, and I may want strips here or more houses. We'll see. But for now, I just want to stitch these together, trim that off, dry fit some roofs, and we'll call it a day. I have to have stories with things that I design. Apparently, I do these elaborate backstories, which you should see some of the ones I have for some fabric collections I've designed. People keep saying I should write a children's book about that collection. Feel free to write it. I'll give you the illustrations. All right, so I'm going to sew these strips together, and I will be back for trimming. As I am sewing these together, I'm lining up where I want things to be, and then I just pick one up and plop it over. There isn't great precision about this process. And here is the part of our village that's on the hill. As I was talking about stories, I was thinking about the old TV show, The Naked City. And it started out with, there are 6 million, how many were there at the time? 6 million stories in the Naked City. This is one of them. So this could be, there are 100 stories in the Naked Village. This is one of them. Now I'm ready to trim this up. Thank you, Emily. And it's actually kind of a nice modern design on its own, or hopefully it will be when I get it trimmed up. And I'm going to find the limiting edge here, which is right here. Check to make sure I've got things at least roughly square. Now there may be a part of the village where the houses aren't perfectly square, or maybe a different village. The other one we're working on, maybe that will be not so square. We're going with the square part of town right now. And I have some pieces for my crumb pile. Didn't you know the crease is right up there? Couldn't miss the crease or cut it off. No. So there is part of our village. Let's put on some hats for them so they don't look quite so naked. The naked village. I don't know if that light coral is going to be bright enough. We'll see. I don't know that the tiny home is when I really need to save for a wider house. I don't know that the tiny home is going to need a roof. That's looking like a chimney, and I'm afraid if I put a little roof thing there, it will look even more like a chimney. We could do a blue roof here. This poor guy is getting hidden behind the rooftops. I can always drop this down a little bit more. Remember, these are going to be appliqued, so I won't be losing edges on those. That will be the finished size once I cut off the strings. That needs to be brighter. Needs to be brighter. And I'll bet I even have do I have a stripe here? Or am I rattling? Well, I have a piece I could make into a triangular roof. Although maybe this should be part of the there's one in every town thing. Well, that's just an interesting angle, but it's all right. I don't mind that. That's a very big triangle though. We could have, that could be, that's a little much. It's definitely big, of course, but I'm wondering if we were to cut this roof at an odd angle, gives us another roof. It's an odd angle. Maybe this guy has a, I don't know, covered patio or something. I don't know. And that's not right. But, so that gives you a sort of an idea of how these might look once we get the roofs on. And we may have different kinds of roofs. They don't have to be triangles, do they? Sorry, Rosaline, they do not have to be triangles, do they? I was picking something up off the floor. I'm almost wanting something brighter here. It may work out all right when I get something that is, if I had another one of those I could put on. Let's do just a small triangle, maybe with a little shade off to one side. Maybe to the other side. except that generally the roofs of tiny houses don't have, I mean, they're flat generally, aren't they? Well, there's a story there somewhere. This could have I'm just afraid if I put a little cap on that, it's going to look like a chimney cap if I put a roof on. But let's see. If we make it a funky angle. Oh, let's try this. This would go the other direction to counterpoint that one. And these are, some of these definitely are going to need some added something, embellishments or something. I don't want to do too much because I like that Naked Village look. That will do it for today, I think. Let's bring up another part of our village here just to see how it's looking. Picked these other pieces up so we wouldn't lose track of them and wouldn't be shifting them around. But let's add them back in again. And this guy's going to have a clock tower, right? Move these over a bit. Some of this is going off screen, I'm aware, sorry. And we don't yet know how we're going to arrange these, but they will not, well, they could all be going uphill. It could be like Positano in Italy or something where everything's moving up the hill. What have we got here that we can use for roofs? This guy's a flat roofed one. This guy needs to have the goth house. Maybe that's what needs the funky black and white. Maybe that's too much white for it. And we could do a green roof here. I think I'll offset them. I don't want them to be lined up with those. So we'll move that over a bit. This over here. Move that up a little. Sorry, I was out of frame there. It looks crooked somehow. That's the general idea. This needs a belfry. And it's a little big for a belfry. That's even more so. Do I have a smaller piece of that? Apparently not. All right, I'm going to cut one. And I'm not gonna pull out my rotary cutter for that, so it's probably going to look like a bit of a hack job, but and that will need a belfry roof. What roof do we want on it? It's a lighter color, softer color than some of them. Want good contrast with it. Don't think the blue's going to be the, oh, that's bad. Never mind that one. What if we have that sort of roof? That's a little much, even for the town hall. I think we need to cut off that part of it. And this one wants to go more up the hill. This is a lot of yellow and green there, isn't it? You may be moving that. Well, there we have it. That's where we're at with our naked village. And there we have it. That's where we're at the moment with our naked village and its 100 or whatever stories. Next week, we will either start appliquing some roofs on, or we'll start doing this piecing process for our other village, or we may try doing an applique version of it. I don't know. We'll see where the spirit takes us. On Wednesday, I have another thought for 2.5-inch squares. And it really is, I have no idea if it'll work. So that will be an adventure on Wednesday. Hope to see you there. In the meantime, be well, be safe, be happy, be quilting.